Hey folks, Randy Newberg here with another episode of Hunt Talk Radio, and today is going to be all fun, so I don't think I have to go unfiltered today. So we won't call this Randy Newberg Unfiltered. Today I've got two great guests with me, and you guys have heard me talk about their product. You've seen it on our show. You probably think that Randy Newberg has some equity position in this company, and I'm here to tell you I don't. It is just, and you guys hear me say it all the time, it's at the top of my don't leave home without it list. And I'm sure now some of you are nodding your head saying, yeah, he's here talking about the onXmaps, GPS map and chip and app service that allows him to navigate some of the craziest spots in the West without trespassing. It allows me to apply for tags in places I would never apply before. So I am at the galactic headquarters of onXmaps here on Brook Street in Missoula, Montana. And with me are the two guys in charge of this operation, Eric and Rob. Guys, thank
you, Randy.
Thanks for being here. We've been talking about this since I started a podcast 8-9 months ago.
Right.
And I'm trying to figure out if you guys are that busy working or that busy hunting. A little of both?
A little of both. Yeah.
So often we have people on the podcast who they follow their dream job in the hunting or fishing world, and they say, you know what? I don't hunt and fish as much as I did before. Is that a problem here?
That is a little bit of the case.
Yeah.
But we have a team that's working really hard. We're still working really, really hard. Everybody's working hard to improve land ownership data and create awesome tools for hunters. So everyone's excited. They work really hard, but then they also play hard. So that's the cool thing about our company culture is they know how to play hard in the fall too and throughout the year.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a big part of knowing the user experience on the other end is go out and do it. Put yourself in that position.
Oh, we do field testing all the time. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, look at my calendar. Eric field testing. September is a lot of Eric field testing.
Yeah, is that your archery elk thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that your?
That's my thing. I love archery elk.
Rob, you got something?
My big passion? Yeah, I guess Eric actually took me elk hunting first about 5 years ago, and that got me hooked pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then just a couple years ago, I started bow hunting, so September has become pretty extensive outdoor for me as well. So. Yeah, exactly.
And you guys can say anything you want. You know, I always make your spouses sign a release so that whatever you say on this podcast can't be held against you for future. So if you say, hey, I plan on hunting 8 weeks in a row, and they listen to the podcast and say, you didn't tell me about that. And if you knew how many times my wife is like, I didn't know about that. Right? Well, honey, I was getting around to it. I'm sorry. I kind of got things going here.
Isn't that why you started a podcast, so she could know more about you?
It's probably the truth, Rob, because I'm gone so much. I mean, with trade shows, here we are. It's March 2nd or 3rd, something like that. Right. I'm gone the next 6 weekends doing Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and other appearance stuff. But I'm not going to get any sympathy from you guys because every trade show I go to, I see you guys at it.
It's a grind, honestly.
Everyone thinks
first quarter is a grind.
Yeah, everyone thinks it's just all hunting and fun. But there is some work involved. Right. But so our audience is pretty familiar with your product, but we're going to get into more of it. But Eric, since you founded this operation, I just got to ask. And the reason it is so curious to me is because as someone who's always hunted these public-private interfaces, if someone would have said, Randy, what's your dream product? It would have been the product you came up with. And then I see it at a Sportsman's Warehouse, and I can't remember when it was, 2000. When did you guys start?
2009.
9? Okay. So it was like 2010 or something. And the guy's telling me, oh, yeah, this is how it works. And I'm thinking, you know what? If it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true. But I bought it, and it turned out to be everything and then some. So how does a guy like you come up with there had to have been some, the old mother is the necessity of invention, or however that
exactly
goes.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Just kind of a selfish invention. Obviously, I'm a big time hunter, and I actually moved to Missoula in 2007 fresh out of college, and it was a completely new area to me. So I'm sitting here in the valley, like looking up at the mountains.
Yeah.
Okay, where can I go hunting? How can you tell that that's the area I can hunt, or if that's private land? And I remember one distinct instance. I was out archery elk hunting, and we walked down this road, and all of a sudden here's the sign for public land. And so we decided to go off trail and hike over along this fence line and see what we find, off the trail. So we get about only a quarter mile off this trail, and all of a sudden here's all this elk sign, and you can tell there's a farm like right there, a farmhouse. And I'm just thinking, man, where exactly is this property line? Like, are elk really like right here on the public land, right next to this farm? So I'm like, gosh, I really need the ability to know exactly where this property boundary is, so I know for sure that I can hunt here. So that was kind of the moment where I said, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a way to know this information while in the field.
Yeah.
So started doing some research and figured out there's land ownership data out there, and started working with GPS units. Obviously, that was how I was trying to be able to use that data in the field, was having it on my mobile GPS unit.
Yeah.
So.
And you figured it out.
So I figured it out. And a lot of people have had the idea. It's funny, I've heard stories from guys ever since we started this company, like, oh man, I thought of that like in 2005. And I was going to do something, and it, I'm truly just blessed to be the part of this and
so
have it all work out for me.
Besides being a hunter, do you have a background in like cartography, maps, or something like that, or what?
Not really.
What's the college degree?
So the college degree is in mechanical engineering from Montana State University. So I guess I figured out how to problem solve.
Yeah.
And so I learned mapping software, and just kind of researched how to build maps for Garmin GPS units. And what I think my advantage is that I'm just a really stupid, simple guy. And I'm like, how could a dumb guy like me actually use this thing and actually make it easy?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, it's got to be already loaded on the chip. I just got to plug it into my Garmin GPS unit, and that makes it easy enough for anybody to use. And so.
And you did.
There's a little bit of good timing there too, because a lot of stuff was just coming online with people building their own maps for Garmin. Garmin had some mapping tools that became available around that time. They just started coming out with color GPS units at that time. So a little bit of good timing in there as well, which a lot of businesses are about timing, but that's certainly it. And
definitely. When I look back and think about the timing, how it all worked out, and really even timing with counties coming with their digital land ownership data availability, everybody getting on board with that, technology movement, it's truly a blessing to just have that timing work out perfectly.
Right.
Because I knew of the map building software that Garmin was kind of putting out there.
Right.
But I'm a low-tech dude. I started looking at that, and I just threw my hands up in the air and said, you know what? I'm just going to have to rely on fence lines and a paper map.
Right.
And so your product has bridged that humongous gap that is there for guys like me who don't want to be computer dudes, but have the end user need of, this is going to solve a lot of my problems. So Rob, you come into the picture. How did you guys get connected?
So through sort of mutual acquaintances, I guess. I actually met Eric at his wedding, which was kind of interesting. And then a couple years later, I was in graduate school out here. Right. I was in graduate school out here. And it was funny too, because I'd been in graduate school for a couple years at that point, and still trying to get into the hunting community. Really, I mean, I'm from Minnesota originally, and you come out here, and there's a little bit of a secret society going on. I mean, you realize how tight to the chest people hold their hunting spots, and just trying to get into a group that's already established and stuff like that. So Eric, I remember, and I had a few drinks, but I remember being at Eric's wedding, and he was going around talking to all the tables, and he sat down at our table, and I'm like, you need to take me hunting. So I think it maybe just kind of planted the seed a little bit at that point. And then I was just finishing up graduate school, honestly, and just at that time, Eric was looking for somebody the business was blowing up. He kind of was outgrowing just himself. It was him in his house delivering product to people. He had his brother on staff. He had his wife on staff fulfilling. He had he kind of was just outgrowing himself, and so he was looking for somebody to partner with. I was, again, just the product of good timing for me personally, and happened to say, yeah, let's try this. I was looking for a way to stay in Missoula, and this was my opportunity. So and I started in 2010, July of 2010. So, and yeah,
wow,
it kind of went from there, right? I know, right? Exactly. I'm in science. I'm a science guy, so I come from physical science. I'm a chemistry guy, so I really? Yeah. So I'm even further away from business, it feels like, but still, I think I got an analytical mind. I got a scientific mind, and so it does work well with the metrics, trying to understand how business works. It's the economics part of it. Maybe we're both learning that a little bit, but yeah.
So I'm the knucklehead of the group here. I took the easy path. I went to business school. I'm sitting here with an engineer and a chemist.
Right.
Man, I really feel dumb this morning.
You're more qualified to be running a business than we are.
Well, my wife wouldn't agree with that. But, so a business like this starts with a need, like you mentioned. Right. Excuse me. Too much coffee this morning. So, Eric, a business like this starts, as you talk about, with a need. But everybody listening has had this idea in their head of, I need to make a business out of that. Well, whatever it is, a gadget or a service or a software application. Everyone's had, something that this is how I could get rich. Right. Going from idea to actual business
execution
is hard, and then executing a business plan to actually make it a successful business. Is it one of those things where if I would have known how hard it was, I might not have been able to jump in and start doing it?
I'm ambitious, though. I would have tackled it. I wanted the challenge, and I would have tackled it. So
I'm going to step in here for a minute because Eric is a humble guy, and I don't think he's going to give himself enough credit. He's got a brilliant business mind. He really does, which it's I think a lot of business people who are really successful business people have the instincts. Yeah. Understand how the consumer is going to respond, be able to connect very, very well with the consumer. And that's exactly, I think Eric really was able to say, this is a product we can, this is a need that people want. Here's an easy delivery platform. It's got good margins. And he understood all of that stuff early on. It's got good margins. It's a simple plug and play system. So really it's open to a wide audience.
Very scalable.
Right. And built it. I mean, we could have built it there was several GPS manufacturers at the time, but Eric realized that Garmin owns the majority of market share, so why build it for anything else? Let's focus on one thing. And so there's a lot of ways, and honestly, one thing that early on in the business, especially when you're starting a business, everybody's telling you different things, got a lot of different ideas, so staying sort of laser focused on something, and we certainly have strayed a little bit and really try to find exactly what's worked, but staying laser focused on a business plan, and I think those are things that, again, Eric has very good intuition about. So
well, my strategy was surround myself with brilliant people.
There you go. There you go.
Get it started, then just surround yourself with brilliant people. So that's where we're at.
When Rob says that Eric is a humble guy, they're both very humble guys. If you see them at a trade show, they're kind of like sitting in the corner. Just you can tell their mind is going a million miles an hour, and they act like, I'm just here to clean the place up after everybody leaves. And whatever you do, folks, if you ever run into these two guys, don't let their humility fool you, because I always have this saying that, just when I thought that I was out in front, I realized that someone smarter than me, I wasn't in front of them, they were just getting ready to lap me going around the track. And that's how the onX idea is. And, a lot of people know your brand as it started as huntinggpsmaps.com. And now it's expanded to many other applications. And so now it's, when was it, 2-3 years ago you rebranded as onXmaps?
Yep. 3 years ago.
Yep.
Okay. But it's still, the core of it seems to be the hunting audience. I'm here in their office, and let me see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 dead animal parts right here in Eric's office. When I say parts, it's shed antlers or Euro mounts or whatever. So you walk in the front door, it's all these conservation signs, all these groups you're associated with and affiliated with. it's not like you guys are someone trying to come to the hunting world and bring a non-endemic application. You guys, your birth was right here in the hunting world. Is that safe to say?
That is very safe to say.
And this is where your kind of home base is in the hunting world?
Right. Definitely. That's huntinggpsmaps.com was the website that we started with, and we started targeting the hunting vertical to begin with. Yeah. We've always had ideas of expanding to fishing and just general outdoor recreationists because we have great public land data and a great GPS application.
Yeah. But here I'm going to interject another sort of brilliant business decision. Again, hunting GPS maps is so keyword rich.
Right.
Especially in the era of SEO, online research, or online searching for people, product searching. Eric realized quickly that hunting GPS maps and owning huntinggpsmaps.com was the quickest way for people, because people are just online searching hunting maps and GPS maps and things like that. So by owning those keywords and owning that domain, people found us quickly. And so Eric was able to build really quickly on just a few simple tactics like that. And so, but yeah, when we rebranded to onXmaps, that was the time where we're like, okay, we should really expand in the greater audience and creating a company name, a umbrella company like onXmaps. It allowed us to potentially step into new verticals instead of sort of pigeonholing us into just the hunting. But certainly the hunting community, absolutely. And they have adopted us so well. We really couldn't be here without the hunting community, absolutely, and they'll continue to be our biggest focus.
But I suspect, Rob, a lot of that is because the hunting community said, "Oh my gosh, it is as good as advertised." Because so often in the hunting world we buy something or we get pitched something, and it's like, boy, where's the garbage can?
Right.
And then every once in a while, something is better than advertised, and that's how it's been for me. And so from this is, I don't want you to give away any trade secrets, Eric, but so many people get a hold of me because of our platforms, and they know we do all public land, and they see me out there doing this, hunting right on these boundaries. Every one of your competitors at some time or other has got a hold of me and said, "Oh, you should use our stuff, blah, blah, we use this federal data map set." I just walked through the whatever you want to call it here, the
mad scientist.
Yeah, the mad scientist laboratory right here at onX.
Land ownership labs, if you will.
Yeah. How many engineer and GIS people you got out there doing?
So right out there we have a dozen GIS analysts.
Yeah.
So map analysts.
Yeah. So it looks like you guys aren't just copying and pasting here. I mean, I was standing over the shoulder of some of those people, and they're doing some serious work.
Right.
So when these other companies tell me, "Oh, we have the federal database and it's that much better than the user interface,"
they likely don't have a team of 12 people spending 500 hours a week going through county by county, comparing different land ownership data sets and actually picking out what's most accurate and actually making it look good and be GPS accurate. The biggest challenge is how can the boundaries be GPS accurate, and how can we be sure that this land is public and this land is private? Who owns this land? Who owns that land? That's what they do, and that takes, as much as people want to just throw together some federal lands database, over the years we've learned that data has so many errors in it. It's unbelievable. Just working with the counties, working with the state agencies, game and fish agencies. We've had tons of error reports early in 2010, 2011, and we realized this data is just not good enough for hunters, for everybody out there. Someone has to solve this challenge of accurate, complete, and current land ownership. So we said we're going to tackle that, and now we built the team to be able to do it, built the methodology. It's quite crazy what they do with the GIS software to put all these different land ownership pieces together, and they don't match up. All this one doesn't match. What's the most accurate boundary? And they have to really sometimes manually look at these, each parcel. I mean, you can imagine there's probably there's 3,300 counties in the entire U.S.
Wow.
So we go gather data from
every one of them.
All those counties.
We learned kind of early on that, because we did the comparison. We took the federal data set and we took a county data set, and the county would have some public lands on there, and we did the matchup. And we saw that there were discrepancies between, so we would contact the county and say, there's a discrepancy between this data set and this data set. Like, how do we prove that one is better than the other? And I think over time we just kept on hearing the same answer, and we kept on getting, kept on pointing towards that the county data is just that much better.
Yeah.
So we do take and supplement some of our data with the federal lands, but for the most part we're like, we'll proof it, we'll truth it through the county data. And there's an economic benefit, there's an economic driver for the county because they collect tax dollars. Mm-hmm. So if you just kind of take it all the way back to really why would the county have more motivation to make this a better data set than the federal?
Right.
And so, like you said, sort of a plug and paste or copy and paste. The federal data set, like you were saying, that is a very simple way to market for a lot of companies, right? And so there are competitors that can have speed to market, but absolutely the amount of effort, like Eric said, 500 hours a week, collecting the data, truthing the data, going through manipulating, making sure, contacting the county, saying, we've got this discrepancy, we need to prove that it's one way or another. That's really what we do, and that's the core, that's the business model that we've created.
Yeah, and for me, someone who hunts these boundaries at my profile, exactly. I can't afford to trespass by accident. If I trespassed even by accident because I had faulty data in my hand, that would be a disaster for me.
Well, and any trespassing ticket is a couple $100, so to have to spend $100 to save you a couple $100, or and all of the headache, But you're right, especially a guy with your profile. Your business, your job, everything. Revolves around that. Exactly.
Well, nobody wants to have a confrontation with a landowner, and that's never fun. That just ruins your day.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So it's funny though how many times I've been out there, and someone will say it'll be a neighbor, an adjacent landowner, or someone who leases the grazing rights or whatever, and usually they're kind of they're nice enough about it, but they want to know if I know where I'm at.
Right.
And usually the question is, you know where you're at? Yep, and I show them my GPS with my map chip, and usually they're like, "That's good."
It was
See
fun.
you later.
So it's interesting you bring that point up because it's a fun evolution. It was a fun evolution to watch that happen because early on with the product, when a lot of landowners didn't realize this product existed, we'd get landowners calling, or we'd get tons of stories from hunters being like, "This guy had no idea that this product exists," and now it really is becoming enough of a source where it stops a confrontation before that even begins. Yeah. A game warden doesn't have to come out. In the past, the game warden would have to come out just to sort of mediate the confrontation between the landowner and the hunter, or the person accessing the land. And now it just is, it's good enough. People realize that this technology is that good, the data is that good. It just kind of stops everything right before it starts.
You guys saw me starting to laugh when Rob brought that up. And the reason I started laughing is I think it was 2011. I'm in Wyoming, in an area known for difficult access. And there's this little 40-acre piece that touches the county road.
Right.
And I'm parked there with my camera crew, and up comes a guy, and I can tell as fast as he's driving, he's not coming to say, "Hey, can I bring you a cup of coffee?" He gets out, and he's like, "What are you boys doing here?" "Oh, we're hunting." He's like, "Not here, you're not." I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And I show him the GPS with the map chip in it, and it's yellow, and I can tell, like you said, Rob, I'd only recently discovered this, and he'd not discovered it or seen it. And I said, "This is BLM right here." He's like, "No, it's not." I'm like, "No, really it is." And he left, without really saying anything at all. And I'm like, he's going to get the sheriff, and this is not going to be a fun day.
Right.
He comes back about 2 hours later. And he says, "Boys, I got to apologize. I've been managing this ranch for 10 years.
Exactly.
And I did not know that this little piece here was BLM.
Right.
I went back, I looked at all of our maps, and I pulled one out, and sure enough, you guys are right." And he was really nice about it. He said, "Here's the fence lines." He said, "We run an outfitting business, so just stay here." And I thought, boy, I'm glad I had that. So we're glassing a bunch of elk on his ranch they're getting ready to cross the fence. So we're all excited. And along comes the game warden. And he's like, "What are you guys doing here?" "Well, we're hunting." He's like, "No, this is private." "What?" No. And I showed him the GPS. He's like, "What is that?"
Right.
And I told him, and he's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, the ranch manager was here a couple hours ago, and same thing."
Right.
And so it was this kind of adapter, when you talk about business, there's early adopters and all that stuff. It really did require some, I guess, proofing to people that, hey, this really exists and it really is the right thing.
One of the biggest,
I'm not making it up.
One of the biggest sources of pride for us at this point is we literally have thousands of game wardens across the country using our product now. So you talk about Wyoming actually, and maybe we have you to thank for this, that the game warden actually, realized that this product existed. But right around 2011, we worked out an agreement with the Wyoming Game and Fish, and every single game warden, in fact, every year we send them new chips. We get their chip up to date, make sure that they have the latest and greatest, make sure it's the most accurate information they can have. And in fact, I've even been told stories, and this is from the Game and Fish, that basically one of the first questions they ask a hunter in Wyoming now is, do you have this product? Yeah. Especially if there's any land information or land dispute. And anyways, and basically say, do you have this product and do you have the most current version? If so, go on your way.
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes that simple. It's become that simple for them. So it's a huge source of pride for us.
We love to hear those stories, just
Absolutely.
like Randy's. That keeps us going every day.
Yeah.
And you hear those stories every day, so it's really cool to hear that. And it's really cool to watch the land ownership-hunter relationship improve. I mean, you guys just talked about it.
Right.
And I just realized, holy cow, the land ownership-hunter relationship has really improved because...
Because it does eliminate this. A lot of... And I don't... If like you, Rob, I grew up in Minnesota.
Right.
I thought fence lines were it. I thought this is the law, the fence line. And then you start realizing how many of these fences got built just for convenience because they didn't want to run their fence up a cliff, or they knew if they built it into the steep hillside it would erode away, and they didn't want to be rebuilding fences every 5 years. And so
and in the checkerboard areas you'll see that they just built the fence. It kind of worked out an agreement and built it diagonally through the public land and the private, and they just worked out some agreement. I don't know how it worked, but diagonally through.
And as long as nobody complained or nobody worried, it was like, oh, well, whatever. Right. And now we start finding out. And if people go to our YouTube channel at Randy Newberg Hunter, and they go to a Montana mule deer hunt in season 2 of On Your Own. You're from over by Miles City, aren't you, Eric? So we're hunting south of Miles City. And a really nice buck is standing there, and my buddy Bart May and I are like, man, according to everything I have in my hand here, it was before I had your chip. It looks like that thing is on public land, because I'm looking at the contours and the roll of the hill, and that's really what I had to gauge it with. And but we didn't dare shoot. It was just because the fence was off.
Right.
So later on, like 2 days later, I swing by the Forest Service office. I'm like, man, that fence in this spot looks really off. And the guy's like, oh yeah, those fences out there, they're off like 400 or 500 yards. Don't necessarily go by the fences. So I go back there 2 years later with the map chip.
Yep.
Right to that little knob we were on, and that buck was on public land.
I know.
And we could have shot it.
Oh, I hate that story. Everybody has that story of a missed opportunity because you weren't confident.
Right. And that's why I tell people a lot of our listeners and viewers are coming out west from out of state, or maybe they live in the west but they're going to go hunt another state. I tell them, look, for what you paid for your non-resident tag, plus the travel and expense to get here, the best money you are going to spend to make that hunt as successful and as enjoyable as possible is this onXmaps chip or app.
Well, I've had that argument with customers a lot when they're like, $100. I'm just like, you're going to spend that much in gas just scouting this area. Like, we'll save you a bunch of time in scouting just by knowing exactly. But you're right.
And I know some people are saying, oh, Randy, now you're just saying that about them because now they're involved in your platforms. Well, I was buying all of your chips before I knew you guys. And if you would have charged more than $99 for them, I would have spent more than $99. It's almost like, and I don't want to, this might be a bad analogy, but it's almost like an addiction. Not that you get addicted to it, but once you realize how useful it is, you don't go without it. It just, all right, I'm going to New Mexico. Hey, have you guys got New Mexico? Oh yeah, we got New Mexico. Hey, I'm going to wherever. So it's
amazing. I like, in terms of using a GPS, I mean, really we've evolved how people use the GPS. In the past, it used to be you mark your truck and you can get back to your truck at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now, literally, a guy will almost have their GPS in their hand, constantly looking at the map, making sure, like, reanalyzing and redetermining where they're going to go next, replanning and stuff like that. So it's really become this thing that guys, feel naked without it. They feel completely like they're lost.
I carry a spare GPS with me. And actually, this is panic mode. I posted out on our Hunt Talk website that I'd lost my GPS. And it's got all these waypoints. I mean, Randy Newberg's 8 years of secrets.
That would have gone for a lot on eBay.
I know. And I couldn't find it. I was just ready to, I'm like, no. And I remember the last time I had it in my truck. And I said, I'm going to put this somewhere. Because it was the end of season. I'm going to put this somewhere where I won't lose it or forget it. Well, I have these custom seat covers in my truck. And I put it in one of the pouches. And it was May of the next year when I'm like, what's in there?
Oh, nice.
Oh, my GPS. I'm like, whew. And this ties to two things. One, I want to talk about your commitment to conservation. Every conservation group that I'm involved with, when I go to their events, you guys are part of it. Is that part of the business strategy? Is it just part of our ethos of what we do? Is conservation is that important that the elk foundation, the mule deer, the ducks, the whoever, we're going to be a part of it? Yeah. Is that?
I mean, certainly there's the marketing and partnering up with people that have strong brand equity in the industry, but it absolutely goes back to where our core where we lie in terms of what we believe in. Yeah. So, and I know everyone would say that, but there's a lot of reality there. In fact, we sponsor a scholarship over at the university.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which we've done. I mean, other than this, you wouldn't know about it. So
yeah.
We sponsored the wildlife biology department over there for the last 4 years. They've done elk project, they've done deer project, they've done grouse projects, they've done ground squirrel projects, and then we've helped support. So we support 3 graduate students over there with their summer research every year. So, and the only reason why I say that is just to add some sort of legitimacy to the comment of the fact that we do really, truly, at our core, believe in conservation. We know, every conservation group, the future of conservation is in hunters, right? And in order to sort of perpetuate this onto the next generations, we need to believe in the messages and the missions that these conservation groups are standing behind, and so we're doing it also for business preservation, right? Being able to support ourselves, but absolutely it's more core to us than that. So
yeah, well, if it was just business preservation, you guys would be doing it differently.
Right.
We see the groups that say, oh, the Elk Foundation has 200,000 members, I'll support them to whatever degree can tap me into that.
Right.
You guys are there, all the time doing everything. And then for you guys to support and fund summer internships of graduate students that are doing research relevant to the future of hunting, that's so far above and beyond what anyone listening I didn't even know that, Rob. What you just said there, I'm like, oh man, I'm so proud of this company. It's because my brand is the conservation brand, and I think everyone knows that all of my partners have a strong conservation slant, but you guys take it to a pretty high level. And I know Eric's over here being his humble self, not really wanting to talk about it. So I'm trying to pull these little bits out of these guys, but it's
you want to give back to the community.
Yeah. Well,
and there's more to it. Eric's working with Boone & Crockett right now, working on a layer to help them sort of disseminate the information that they've got to expand their reach. We've worked with Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation to build some maps for them, and Eric actually we've done stewardship projects with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation where we funded pulling and rebuilding fences to help with different migration routes and stuff. So this is really, we don't post this on our website. This is really just sort of small group conversation typically, but there's a lot of truth. And I have to admit there is a little self-serving in that conservation or in the scholarship funding thing. Being a graduate student myself and knowing how difficult it is so I find a lot of value in that. I know these graduate students are working hard to find funding and stuff. So, but it serves 2 purposes really. It helps a graduate student do better research. And then that just contributes really to different conservation and also helps with, part of conservation absolutely is helping the local biologists or having the best information for the local biologists so that they can make better decisions on game management, right? Yeah. I mean, that just serves everybody as well in the hunting community. So
yeah, conservation data is, well, most of it's geospatial data. A lot of it is, at least. So that's one way we're trying to help out with organizations, is helping them with their map data and helping them publish their map data and organize it spatially and put it into a layer. So
you said you're doing something with Boone and Crockett. I don't need to know the details, but after lunch today, I'm going over to their headquarters, and Tony and Keith are going to be sitting behind these mics.
Right.
And Keith was teasing me. He's like, well, did we get to tell everyone where you shot that big pronghorn in Wyoming in 2014? I'm like, no, we're not telling anybody. But it is an onXmaps story. And if you'll allow me a minute to tell it, people who watch the episode know, is there's this checkerboard in Wyoming like there is in a lot of the West. And when I moved out here, I'm like, what's the deal with all this checkerboard looking stuff? And for audience who's listening, when the railroads were asked to come and build railroads in the West, they were granted every other section, in other words, every other square mile of land within 3 or 4 miles off each side of the railroad grade, something like that. Right. And so there's some places in the West where it looks like an actual checkerboard where it's red, black, red, black. And so I see this big buck, and some other guys are looking at him, and they drove off. And I told my camera guy, I'm like, well, that can't be that big of a buck then. So we drive up there, and I'm like, what are those guys looking for? This thing is a monster. And he takes off running, and he runs over to private. And this is at like 8 in the morning. And I sat there, and I waited, and I waited. And I'm sitting there with my GPS, with my map chip, and all of a sudden another buck runs him over onto the BLM. And I run out there, and I shoot him. And I had no idea he was as big as he was. But there are no fences out there, really. So if I didn't have that chip, there's no way I would have felt comfortable going out there, because it's big, vast stretches of sage, and you're like, well, there's no landmarks to tell me. So two things. One, Keith over at Boone and Crockett, I'm not telling you where I shot that buck. Two, Eric and Rob, thanks for making that product, because I would not have shot that buck without it. But so, no, if Eric, you were talking about September is the time you're hard to find because you're archery elk hunting. Is that really what gets you fired up for hunting season? Yeah, definitely.
I grew up in eastern Montana, like you said, right just in Miles City, actually. My family owned a cattle ranch, so I grew up at mule deer hunting and antelope hunting. I know you're a big fan of the old antelope hunting.
Yeah.
I like it too. I love spot and stock hunting.
Yeah.
In eastern Montana. I just can't get enough of that mule deer spot and stock, the strategy involved in it. But then I moved to Bozeman for college, and all of a sudden I got a bow and went out there in September and just fell in love with talking to elk and trying to get close. So yeah, I'm hard to find on Septembers. Every weekend I'm out there trying to get close to elk, just because it's such a cool experience being close to a 600-pound animal.
Yeah, people, I don't think people understand how an elk bugle vibrates your entire body.
There's not another rush like it.
No. That's the terrible part about TV. It doesn't do it justice. I think a lot of first-time elk hunters think, oh, well, I'll hear this noise. You will feel this noise. And, I mean, I've been hunting elk now for 25 years, and if I never shoot another one, I probably shot more than I deserve. But when that bull comes walking in and he's screaming, I look down and I still today am shaking and quivering so bad. It's one of those, you gotta go and experience it to understand it and get the full depth of it. And if you do, you're gonna be like Eric in September, where don't call me, I'll call you.
Yeah, and I like to tell people who don't even hunt. I mean, even if you don't have a weapon, get out there and try to get close to elk and experience that. It doesn't matter if you're trying to take one.
Yeah.
To put in the freezer. So and not to mention they're yummy.
Yeah.
They're really yummy. That's what I love about it too.
I always say I wish antelope were the size of elk. My only downside of hunting antelope is you shoot one, they taste great, but they're just not big enough. You know, I can devour an antelope way too quickly.
Yeah.
But anyhow, Rob, you were getting ready to chime in there.
Well, I was just going to mention that, you know, so Eric, every year he's very successful with this as well. So whether it's first weekend, it's not, I mean, he'll go out. If he gets his elk first weekend, he'll look for somebody else to take. Yeah. So that's exactly, I mean, his point is it's not just about getting out there with a weapon. It's really just about getting out there, having the experience. He got it a little bit prior to, or I guess right around the timeline was right around the time when he started onXmaps or hunting GPS maps, and so he's got a lot of experience with guiding, and that's one of the cool things. And you can ask everybody. In September, as soon as he gets his animal, especially September and October during big game season, he'll be asking everybody in the office who wants to go, who wants to become a hunter, and he'll take them out. Newbies, absolutely. It's almost more fun. So cool. It's another sort of one of those humbles that Eric won't talk about, but it's absolutely the truth. And Eric is a very methodical hunter, and part of the reason he's so successful is because of his methods. But it's cool, it's fun, and really Eric has been, I really attribute my sort of passion towards the outdoors and hunting big game the way that I do to Eric. So, but it's fun, it's infectious. It really is. You get a little taste of it, and like you said, you just feel that, you hear that. And especially if you can get one to respond, truly to respond, and even to like take a step closer and realize that he's taking those steps closer to you. Yeah. That's when you really connect, and you're just like, what is this? How can I get more of this? Like you get addicted. It's very addicting.
It is. If you guys had to say, I'm getting the feel here that if you guys were forced into a corner that, all right, you only get to hunt one species.
In one season, in one weapon.
Yeah, but you get to do it every year of your life.
Right.
It would be archery elk. Am I putting words in either of your mouths there?
I'm thinking prairie dog.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding. No, I'd probably have to. If you only gave me one weapon, I would then do a traditional bow or recurve.
Okay.
Just because I love the challenge, and if I only had it for the rest of my life, I'm still all about the compound bow because I'm still learning out in the field. But I love the idea of the challenge of a recurve bow, and I would probably pick a recurve bow for archery elk. Yep.
Okay, Rob.
You know, you're putting me in a little bit of a corner here because I'm from Minnesota. Yeah. Remember?
Right.
So my history of hunting is a little bit different than the Western story. So I don't know. I'm a waterfowler.
I know. I see. Right? I see your pictures. You are like cleaning up on the waterfall.
But God, if I had to make a choice, Randy.
You can come back later in the episode.
Can I just defer?
No, you have to decide. Birds or big game. Come on.
One of the challenges, I must admit, with elk hunting is it is exhausting.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, hiking your butt around the mountains.
On public land.
Through downfall, through new growth, through all that stuff. I am just beat by the end of an archery season, and I'm not complaining. Yeah. That's not supposed to be a complaint, but that's, I think, one of the challenges for me is I don't know how much longer you can do it. There's a lot of guys that kind of just can't do it physically any longer. So that would be one hang up for me. But God, I love elk hunting.
How old are you, Rob?
I'm 36.
Eric?
I'm 32.
32. I'm 51.
I know, right?
And I tell my wife, I'm going to do this backpack elk hunting until I'm 65. And after last season, I'm like, man, if I make it to 55, I'm going to be lucky. But
you get yourself whipped.
Yeah, but by now here it is March, and I'm already doing all the tag application and everything else. I'm excited to go back and do it again. Which, talking about tag application, this is another way that I use your product that I don't know if other people do, but I always tell our viewers about it. And let's use Wyoming as the example again. In the Wyoming regulations, they have the little asterisk that says, warning, access is difficult in this unit. There's a lot of private land. Those are the only units I apply for. Mm-hmm. And people are like, Newberg, how do you draw so many tags? Because I'm applying for the places other people don't want to apply. I need 10 to 12 tags a year, so I can't always apply for the glory tag that's all public land and everybody knows it. And I sit down, and again, this is old school Randy with his GPS, and you guys are going to say, Randy, you got to pay better attention when we coach you on this stuff. But I plug my GPS in with your map chip into my computer, and I'm sitting there on my computer, overlaying everything, looking like, ooh, look at this. Oh, because sometimes these sections don't line up exactly on corners. There's like a little overlap of like 30 yards or 40 yards. They call them like there's
like the corrections or whatever.
Right, correction corners or whatever.
You can thank the world for being round.
Yeah.
You can't make it flat.
Right. And so
Perfect.
I will find those places where normally you would have to hop over at the corner, but there's these overlaps where for 30 yards it actually overlaps. And I'm like, oh, wow, I could get 4 miles back there. And when I do that, 1, I usually draw the tags. And 2, I don't see hardly any other hunters. And 3, because there's less hunting pressure, the quality of the animals, the age class is usually better.
Yeah.
So I don't know if other people are using your product that way, but I use it that way. And I'm excited that when I come over here for the tutorial for Hunt 3.0, that when did you guys launch that? Last month?
February 1st, yeah.
Yeah, and it's going crazy.
It's going great.
Yeah.
Everyone loves the Hunt app. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, so, and this is Randy confessing that I have it and I use it, but I'm the old guy who uses the crutch of what he's familiar with. And so these guys have promised, Randy, if you come over, we'll have one of our special guys here walk you through it, make you do this, make you do that. So,
well, you talked about having your GPS and losing all those waypoints. You've had it for 8 years. You've marked all these waypoints.
Yeah.
And what happens if, and we've heard people have these stories, you know, I put 8 years worth of waypoints on it and all of a sudden I lost it out in the woods.
Right.
What do you do? Well, that's what's cool about the Hunt app is every waypoint you put on there, you're saving it automatically to the cloud, in the secure cloud. So if you lose your phone out in the woods, all you do is go get your new phone, log in, boom, all your data's there.
Right.
Your membership is
Restore it
right
back
there,
to the new phone.
It's just there. You don't even have to do like a restore function or anything
there.
like that. It's
as soon as you log in.
Right, it's on the cloud.
Right, exactly. So
we call this the new era of GPS, and I'm pointing to a smartphone, my iPhone 6 here.
Right.
So,
yeah. I'm surprised how many people don't even know that their phone has a GPS in it.
Exactly.
I mean, and I got to hold my hand up because like 3 years ago when my son, who's a computer engineer, showed me, hey, Dad, you got a GPS in your phone. Fortunately, there weren't a lot of people around because I was blushing pretty hard for being that ignorant. But I'm sure there are other people out there who do not realize how effective that phone can be. And like the other day out on our Hunt Talk forum, somebody's like, well, yeah, that's all great, but my battery dies or this, or I'm always searching for service. And so the easy answer is download it to your phone if you're not going to have service and put it on airplane mode so your battery lasts.
There's another common misconception is that you have to be connected to satellites or to cell towers rather in order to get satellite coverage or your GPS position.
Right.
Every phone has a dedicated GPS satellite receiver.
Yeah.
And so you don't need to necessarily be connected to your cell tower or to data.
As long as I save my maps, I can use this anywhere in the world as my GPS.
Yeah. And I got to get there. Because I'm still carrying that around when I'm out in the woods. I may as well just carry that instead of my GPS also.
We got something for everybody, though, just in case.
Well, even old guys like you like to have the big screen and high resolution. So
That is true, Eric. When Garmin came out with the new bigger touch screens, because I used to have the 60C and then the 62.
Right.
Yep.
And those were little screens. But once you get plus or minus 2 years of 50, you can't hold anything far enough out at arm's length to still be able to read it. So you need these bigger touch screens. And whoever at Garmin came up with that idea, I hope they got a raise because for guys like me, it's been very, very helpful. So you guys have any, like, Randy, I want to tell a hunting story because I could sit here and tell hunting stories all day long, and the audience is sick and tired of Randy's hunting stories. So I don't know if you guys have any really special.
I know, yeah.
Let's see. Let me think of some of the best experiences archery elk hunting that I have had. I'm thinking of this one instance. I think Rob and I were actually out in the money spot, as we call it.
Yeah.
We were on this ridge, and you get on those ridges and you see the beautiful basin down there. And you bugle, and sure enough, here comes a bugle out of the bottom, 1,000 feet down. It's like, oh, there they are. That's where they like to hang out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going down there. So, Rob, do you mind staying here and
keeping
keeping to bugle? Well, to keep him bugling as I go down there, so I know where he's at. So Rob's up there bugling. I'm going down this steep hillside with all this deadfall and, you know, that nightmare situation. But you do it because it's challenging.
Right.
So I love it. So I get down there, and by the time I get down there, it's noon. And I know I'm close. I heard his... I bugled when I got down a little bit closer. I kind of introduced myself because he stopped bugling because it was so late in the day. You stopped bugling at Rob way up on the mountain. So I bugled and kind of introduced myself to him, and that's what's so fun about it is I'm now pretending to be another bull trying to encroach on his territory.
Yeah.
So I'm creeping in. I know he's probably bedded, you know, with his cows. But I'm creeping in. I know he's like about 200 yards away. And all of a sudden, boom, I bounce out a cow. I'm like, oh, man, busted.
Oh, no.
This cow was bedded like 100 yards away from him. But I'm like, wait a minute. I'm going to throw out a bugle and pretend that I am stealing his cow. So I just rip one, and just such an awesome feeling. Just here comes this big 6x6. He's coming to kick my butt. I'm just like, oh, yeah. So he gets close, and, you know, that's the way it happens sometimes. It's just a little too thick. He didn't quite have the lane, and even though I didn't get a shot, it's still an awesome experience. So.
Yeah. I tell people, you know, a lot of my best learning experiences were the ones that didn't work out.
Right.
And some of my funnest experiences are the ones that just something went snare wire right at the last minute. But I think that's part of what keeps us doing it is the challenge and just the build up and the, oh gosh, dang.
Yeah.
Oh. But,
and then it's like, okay, now I got to go hike back up to camp. Oh, back up the hill, back up the mountain. But then you get back to camp and you're like, that was really cool and that was challenging and I want to do it again.
Yeah. Where's the next one? But, So, but a couple other things. Rob, you're the waterfowler.
Okay.
A lot of waterfowlers using your product.
You know, it's actually, what's funny is we've really almost focused all of our marketing up until late on Western big game.
Yep.
And so I think now we've connected a little bit with like DU. We've connected now also. We've got a big partnership that we just started with NWTF. And so some of these smaller game creatures are I think we're starting to pick up some momentum in each one of those. But I actually personally feel like it could be one of the best applications for waterfowlers, especially some of the more hardcore guys that are just driving around, driving the county roads, checking out fields, checking out ponds, just checking out migrations, just following birds, things like that. I use it a ton, and actually the way that I use our product mostly in terms of waterfowling is driving around. Eastern Montana is actually one of the best unknowns, quite frankly. I know.
Rob.
Yeah, you'll edit this out. You're going to edit this out, right?
Hey, you talked about the Wyoming asterisk, so
Okay.
cut him some slack.
Yeah, right. So, but Eastern Montana, I'm telling you, and I think part of it is that everybody in Montana really does, or a lot of people in Montana place a lot of emphasis on big game. But you go out to Eastern Montana, and it's some of the best waterfowl in the country. I would argue it could be the best. And then I'm not making friends here either. But anyways, as you know, a lot of public land out there, but there's also a lot of private land.
Yep.
And so there are tons of opportunities. There's just open pasture ponds, literally. So you'll be driving around, you'll be checking out the aerial, and you'll say, there's a pond in the middle of this farmer's section. Most likely there's going to be birds there. But so I'll do that, and I'll knock on doors. I'm not too proud to knock on a door. And there's a lot of people, if you come up and you approach them in the right way. And actually, and one of the benefits of our tools is these guys have so much land in Eastern Montana, really, and they don't really even know. They can't describe, they can't explain exactly where their property is and begins and ends, and they've got a neighbor on the east side of one piece of land that is really crotchety and doesn't want you anywhere near. And so to be able to pull out a map like this and say, hey, you can have no fear. Tell me right here where you want me to go, where you don't want me to go. Right. So we do a lot of field hunting like that.
And the fact that your chips, most of them have, at least where counties provide that data, has the ownership name on it. So you don't walk up, bang on the door and say, hey, Mr. Smith, all the time, because hey, this might be Mr. Johnson, and I just read it on my chip. And so if you're on Mr. Johnson's property because it will be indicated as him being the owner.
But yeah, so and honestly, as we move east and we start pushing, and I'm again being from Minnesota, I do have friends, and And it's not too unlike, when it comes to waterfowl hunting, it's really not too unlike the way that a waterfowl hunter would hunt in the West. Mm-hmm. And so it's just smaller parcels, right? It's the quarter sections instead of the 10 sections that you're trying to get access to. But there's still tons of fields. Turkey hunting is another great example coming up here in another couple months. There's going to be turkeys moving out of the woods into the fields and stuff, and there's going to be guys driving around. And that's really one of the major benefits, I personally think, is having access to that private landowner information, where you know where the property is. You can drive down a county road. You can see property passing you by. And if you find a good-looking woods, or you find something, creeks or something like that are going to hold animals, it's a great opportunity to knock on a farmer's door, introduce yourself, and start making those landowner-hunter connections and relationships, building those relationships. I think it's an important part of the future of hunting, is continuing to make those relationships. And so, for me, absolutely, that's one of the major benefits. And so, waterfowler, absolutely. If you're a waterfowler, you definitely should start using this product for that reason.
So can I lift the covers up a little bit here and talk about, because Rob and I, when we get together, we often talk walleye fishing. We've got this Minnesota problem where we live in the trout state of the world, and Rob has done a way better job of adapting to the trout fishing than I have. My wife has a theory that she says this: if you hook them, you cook them. And anyone who cooks them knows that walleyes are pretty good to cook. And if people in Montana, or back home in Minnesota or other places, knew the walleye fishing we have in Montana.
Another secret.
Yeah. Shut up before you say something stupid, Randy. But so my point of that, the kind of background story is, you guys got anything for fishermen other than just the normal map chip? Or they're looking at each other right now like, should we really tell them? So I don't want to have them let the cat out of the bag, other than our fishermen going to be well served by paying attention to what you're doing.
Well, we're building, our motto is we want to give people more location-based information than they ever thought possible. And we have such a cool tool here in the new era of GPS and the smartphone. We want all outdoor recreationalists to be able to use that, including fishermen, including hikers and bikers. We just launched our own product for hikers, bikers, other outdoorsmen and women. And obviously the hunting market is such a big market for us. That's one of the ones we focus on. But yeah, there might be a fish app in the future for
these guys are looking at each other. If you're a fisherman, I would say stay tuned to onXmaps.com.
Well, if you recall earlier in the conversation, I said we came up with the name onXmaps as an umbrella company to start tackling some new verticals, some new industries, if that leads you into anything more here. So,
all right. Yeah. So I think that's code word for Randy. That's all we're going to tell you about this. But in the interim, since we were just talking about drawing tags, I hope Eric and Rob will grant me an interjection here of one of our other partners. GoHunt.com is a proud sponsor of this podcast, and I use their service to do a lot of my research also. And if you were to call the folks at Go Hunt and had questions, they'd probably say, you should call the onXmap guys. And anyhow, if you want their research service at Go Hunt, you can click on the button that says Insider, go to GoHunt.com. And if you use the promo code HUNTTALK, HUNTTALK, you're going to get a free Gerber Vital scalpel blade, replaceable blade knife, the ones that we use out in the field. So there you have it. If you want another piece of research information, go to GoHunt.com, click on the Insider, and use the promo code HUNTTALK. And I can't promise you'll draw more tags, but the odds are you're going to draw more tags. So,
they got a lot of cool features, a lot of cool tools that they use there. They just launched their draw odds functionality. That's actually offers a ton of really good insight. So
and I'm glad they did, but my productivity level has decreased at my CPA firm.
Because you're spending so much time on that.
Looking at draw odds, right? Because that's pretty critical for me being able to get enough tags. But
knowledge is power. They give you access to data just as much. We kind of have the same business model. Hey, we're going to take all this data that's out there and organize it for you in a useful way for the simple layman like myself.
Yeah, Eric says the simple layman like myself. He builds one of the most successful technology companies in the hunting world, and he says simple layman. Right? He should have been looking at me and pointed at me when he said the simple layman.
No, I think you ask our team members, employees. They're like, oh yeah, that guy's pretty simple. We're way smarter than that guy. So I don't think I surrounded myself by very much smarter people than I am. So.
But everybody thinks they're smarter than the boss, Eric. So
that's true.
That's just endemic to the business world.
There is some truth.
So yeah, that's one of the challenges that we're trying to tackle. Is there is tons of map data out there that could help improve your hunt or your just outdoor activity, whatever it might be.
Yeah. And I don't know if I should tell you guys this, but I have realtors who come and ask if they can borrow my GPS.
Right.
Do you guys have realtors that use your product? Because what it is they're looking for listings.
Yep.
And so they're driving around with my GPS, and they're.
You know what's funny about this?
What?
The whole real estate industry for us is that you want to talk about competitive and not giving up spaces.
Yeah.
Well, this is a trade secret for these guys, right? I mean, this is the competitive advantage for these guys.
Oh.
So getting this product to just go word of mouth with a group like real estate agents,
not gonna
happen.
Oh, because they're so protective of their.
So it really isn't an industry that we've tried to tackle because we don't want to, we really don't want to dive into all the marketing and all of the, the money that we'd have to put into trying to get in front of everybody because it just doesn't happen like what we can do with hunting, right? I mean, hunting, a buddy's going to tell their buddy about this, but a competitor real estate agent's not going to tell.
Right. There's money on the table there.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's kind of an interesting, but we do absolutely have a lot of real estate agents that, and for $100, they're returning their investment in about a day.
Yeah, that's an easy one when it's a business application. Exactly. Right. So you guys are going to crack up about this one because you have a strong relationship with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. But they've approached me one time, and I haven't done it yet. They asked me if I would be willing to auction off my GPS with all of my waypoints.
Really?
And as much as I'm a supporter of conservation and I love the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, and boy, it's a hard one for me.
We could start a Randy Newberg layer for you. There's some information. There we go. We can get it to everybody.
Give it to everybody.
Right?
Oh, gosh. They would see tracks across the landscape from Mexico to Canada. Oh, man. We can't do that.
We can't do that.
No. Maybe when I reached, I said I was going to try backpack elk hunt until I'm 65.
Right.
I think when I'm done, when I feel like, I just can't do this anymore, maybe then I'll auction it off. Or I'll give it to you guys and say, here, do what you want.
There you go.
I don't care. But
I think the auction sounds awesome. I think it'd be one of the more interesting items ever up for auction. That's for sure. They could draw a pretty good following. That's pretty.
All right. So all of you listening, if you have an idea about Randy auctioning off his GPS with his waypoints, go to hunttalk.com and let me know your thoughts on it, because I am that committed to conservation that I might do it, but you guys are going to have to give me a really compelling reason about why I should do it sooner rather than later. But
I like it. So who is it? Steve Decker's been pushing you to do that, or who's been pushing
it?
It
was some of the guys who try to do the fundraisers for the national convention, and I told Decker about it, and he just kind of smiled like, "Well, are you standing for conservation or are you not?"
Oh, he did it, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean that was like the triple dog dare thing on what Christmas Story where they triple dog dared him. I'm like, oh come on, man, don't put me in that situation. But oh well. We'll see about that. But so I guess, we've been at this for over an hour now, and I'm wondering, are there any stories, any comments, thoughts, ideas you want to leave the listeners with about onXmaps, where you're going? What if we're doing this podcast in 3 years? Are you gonna have to build a bigger headquarter than this one here? That's 2 years old.
3. It's just over 3.
Okay.
Yeah, 3.5, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, but
I mean, you guys have big plans ahead, I'm sure.
Definitely. We imagine a world. I think 3 years from now, we'll be pulling our smartphone out of our pocket and we'll lay out this 24 by 36 map on foldable digital screen. I'll pull it out of my pocket and unfold it.
No way.
And we'll be looking at our map, and we'll have cellular coverage everywhere in the United States. Maybe that's a little ambitious. Maybe this is 6 years down the road. But we'll bust out this map, and we'll be looking at it. Then we'll plot our waypoints. We'll plan our hunt. Do it all right here on the table. And then we'll go hunting with Randy Newberg. We'll fold it up, and we'll go hunting with Randy Newberg wherever we're going. And we'll sit around the campfire and unfold it and talk with Randy.
Eric, for you to say that, you guys are looking at each other in complete confidence that that's what the world's going to be like. For me, that is like so far out there. So,
right.
I mean, my mind, what you just said, my mind can't even go there yet. But you guys are looking at each other like, oh yeah, that's where we'll be.
There's already some prototypes out there, and technology is moving.
Is it
so
hard
crazy.
from a technology standpoint for you guys to keep up with, because you don't do the hardware for the most part.
Right,
You're doing the interfaces.
Right.
I mean, as all this stuff is continually getting better, does that represent a lot of challenge for you guys to adapt to what those new hardwares are?
Definitely, that's a huge challenge for app development in general.
Yeah.
It's just there's so many different devices out there. They have different operating systems, and you're trying to build this app really, really stable. People expect it to be never crashing and perfectly stable, and it takes we have a basement full of engineers to make sure it works right. So
why
it's a
did
huge
keep
challenge.
their engineers in the basement? I was at Leupold last summer.
That's where they want to be.
Last summer I'm at Leupold getting the plant tour, and all the guys in the white coats with the safety goggles, type engineers.
Yeah.
They got them down, and they call it the dungeon. It's like this dark room, and they're testing and beating on products. So you guys have the equivalent of where you keep your engineers.
Right.
Do they just make them more productive when you put them down in the basement, or what's the deal?
We have had some engineers that are like always closing the blinds. They're up on the second level, and they're trying to block out. They're putting blankets
Pulling
over
lights
the
out. Yeah, pulling lights out and stuff.
But no, actually, a lot of our engineers want out of the basement right now. So
Yeah.
we're looking for we probably will be expanding. We're looking to add 18 people this year, so we don't have any more room here.
18 people this year.
Yeah, we've already added a couple.
There you go, folks. If you're listening and you're looking for a job and you want to live in wonderful Missoula, Montana, not quite as good as Bozeman, Montana, where I live, but and where Eric went to school, but they're hiring. So and I won't even charge you a headhunter's fee if any of these people sign up and come to work here. But
So
Rob, where are you seeing this? I mean,
well, I was going to say, Eric gave you a look kind of into the crystal ball of what potentially could happen. But on the near term, we actually do have a product that we're in the middle of development with already, which is called Planet. And that's going to be more of a web-based, more of a desktop application. And the idea with what we're creating for people is an entire system. You know, the guy can have his GPS in more remote areas, longer terms out in the field, where maybe the technology smartphones aren't quite there. But also it's the beginning stages of it. Where's the plan begin, and how do you do the right research, and how do you actually go out into the field, collect a bunch of information. And we talked about how you mark a waypoint or you do a track, and it goes up into the cloud. Well, we're creating an online system that can actually take all of that data that you collect in the field and put it into a desktop application. And so we've got a product that we're calling Planet, which is Planet with an IT, like Planet, but very similar to like a Google Earth application. And so it'll be this world view, and it'll have all of our layers on there. So it'll look and feel a lot like your mobile application. Mm-hmm. And all of that information that you collect from the field will automatically be dumped right into the desktop application. And then you can also do a bunch of planning, mark waypoints, create a strategy on the desktop application, goes up into the cloud. And then when you're out in the field, you have all of that relevant information, all of that information that you planned right on your phone. Yeah. So we're creating this entire system now, an entire ecosystem, if you will, that allows the hunter just to be that much more productive, that much more strategic, and that much more methodical.
Yeah,
with
knowledge. Knowledge is success. So whenever I can go out, visualize my landscape from the computer, and then mark waypoints, kind of strategize, look at the aerial imagery, look at topography, look at potential wallows, mark them, go out, field verify it, hunt it, maybe gather some data from the field, bring it back to the computer. It's all so automatic and seamless. You just log into you use your login, log in, and all of a sudden all your data is right there, and you're just
it's going to be
you're seeing everything.
So I was at elk camp this year doing my seminar, and the question was asked, how do you, when you scout from home, how do you locate where you're going to go hunting when you get there, it's a place you've never been to. And so I was explaining to the guy, and I'm not going to rat out your employee, but your employee came up and said, Randy, we need to think about how you could do that on the desktop. And what I'd explained was, all right, I take a red marker, and if there's an open motorized road or trail, I just cross off anything. That road on your map is this little narrow ribbon.
Right.
On my map, it's this big red kind of scribble mark that's a mile wide. And so I do that with all the roads. And by the time I'm done squiggling out all the motorized travel paths,
right,
my unit that might have been a map that's 20 inches by 30 inches now has very few places left.
Right.
And your unnamed employee, I could see the wheels spinning, and he's like, well, we're working on some stuff. And so he would, to his credit, he wasn't going to tilt the hand at all. So, but it's
have you seen our National Forest layer that we just launched in Hunt 3.0?
No, I haven't had time. I've been on the road.
What we do is we've taken all your National Forest paper maps.
Yep.
And put them into one layer across the West. We have one layer that you just turn it on, zoom in, and all of a sudden you're seeing your National Forest paper map. And what I use it for, at least, is to show you. It shows what roads are open and closed during what times of year.
Yep.
So instead of you having to mark out all these things with a marker, that we actually show you the data that presents all that information for you, to where you don't have to do that.
But I think, to sort of build on your point, that is also going to be a function, a tool within Planet, where you could actually digitally scribble.
Right.
And all this it's all part of a membership, so it's not a
Right.
separate purchase or anything. So you buy the app and you actually get access to this Planet tool. So it's just one big system, right? So now imagine digitally doing all of that stuff, and saying this is the right.
Oh man,
it's gonna happen.
I've completely lost my train of thought. Now the rest of the day is going to be shot, because all I'm going to be thinking about is sitting down, taking my floor at home. If you looked at the Randy room at home, you wouldn't know what color the carpet is in my Randy room, because it's mostly maps and research stuff laid out. And my wife would really love it if I could just do this on my computer monitor.
For you, right?
So, wow, Planet, huh?
Yeah.
What's the ETA on that?
Eric?
We plan to launch before the hunting season.
Really?
At least.
Yeah.
Do I get like a beta version or something?
Yep, we can probably put you on the beta list.
Really?
We're hoping for a couple months, actually. May sometime is the plan. Trying to get it out before the end of Q2, so that guys have a couple months before the beginning of the hunting season to use it as it was designed as a planning tool.
All right, to the listener, I'm sitting here. These guys are looking at me like I'm salivating, because I did not know about this until Rob brought it up 5 minutes ago.
Right.
And the way that I still do some of my stuff, oh man. My productivity at my CPA firm is just getting less and less every day when you guys come out with these applications. But
have you seen our trails layer on the new Hunt 3.0?
I have not.
So now you got all the trails. You put your land ownership on. You put your National Forest layer on if you want. Add your trails layer. Add your, hopefully, that's another little teaser, roads layer. Yeah. So the GIS team actually has spent a ton of time cobbling together all these roads layers and comparing them and picking out the best rural roads. What we specialize is in rural data. Everybody's done really well on the city roads, but they've spent a ton of time on the rural roads and the National Forest roads and classifying them so you can see, okay, this is a county road, and do exactly what you were talking about earlier in the broadcast, is actually see where that county road crosses public land and know exactly, okay, I can potentially hunt there.
Yeah.
And do exactly what you're doing in certain areas in Wyoming. So they've done a ton of work on this roads layer. It's a nationwide roads layer. It's got all this rural roads data that nobody's really done a good job putting together before, and they've done it, and it's going to be a sweet layer.
Ooh, folks, man, I will give our Hunt Talk crowd, the hunttalk.com community that is, and I'm going to do a little shameless plug here. You guys, some of your employees are pretty active out on our forum, but our forum is a very good place for anyone who's trying to really leapfrog over all the bumps that I had in my road to get here. I mean,
Right.
if there was a pothole in the path of becoming a public land elk hunter, I intentionally must have driven right into that pothole and almost wrecked the truck a time or two. So the whole idea of my Hunt Talk forum is to make it so that everyone else doesn't have to run through the same muck holes I have along the way. And this kind of stuff, I mean, what you're talking about, Eric and Rob, is like, that solves so many problems for the public land hunter. And that's why now you guys see me all alert and like, we maybe shouldn't have told Newberg about this, because now he's going to be on us just relentlessly. But
there's all these really cool things that the team is doing, but really we're trying to educate. We still have to educate people on very simple things like, hey, your waypoints can be automatically saved, and it doesn't matter if you lose your phone.
Right.
You just log in in your new phone, and you've got your data. Really cool, simple things like that. Knowing that your phone can be a GPS. It does have a GPS receiver in it. So we've done all these incredible things, but we're still trying to just educate people on some of the basic things.
Well, when I am your subject matter, the education curve is pretty steep, guys. So I know you won't say that, but let's face it. The old gray-haired dudes like me, we got a pretty low baseline for technology. But
I actually think one of the keys to our success early on was our commitment to helping guys just like you, customer service-wise. I mean, we got a great customer service staff. We've actually put the priority and the payroll dollars into making sure that if you have a question, if technology isn't working exactly like you hope or expect or can figure out how to use it, we'll walk you through it. We've got a lot of conversations that go on, much to my chagrin actually, that go on for 15, 20, 30 minutes because we're really just walking through and we're trying to get that best experience and make sure people have the best experience with our technology. So but absolutely. So if you guys have any questions out there in the radio land, if you guys have any questions, by all means, our customer service and our online support tools will help answer any questions about our products.
Well, when I walked in the door down here, I always, this one sign you have down there kind of catches me, and I want to expand on that story. But before I do, I just want to talk about another product that is a big supporter of the public land hunter, and that is Orion coolers. We've been using them for a year now, beating them up, just doing everything possible to destroy them. Haven't broke one yet. I'm getting ready to go to Alaska in 2 months, and I'll look like I ran away from home because I'll have like 4 or 5 of these big Orion coolers flying up there with me. But if you want to see a cooler that has some engineering and thought put into it for our application as hunters and anglers, go to orioncoolers.com, and you're going to see a superb, excellent product. And you all know me that I wouldn't say that if I didn't use them and didn't believe in them. But so the sign I was talking about, when you walk in the front door, it says, "This business is supported by public lands." And everyone knows Randy is the public land nut, that I'm doing all this advocacy and everything else for public lands and protection and keeping public lands public. When I see a business that has that in their front window, I'm like, now how cool is that? Is that just a statement of who you guys are? Or it just part of the brand, part of the ethos around here? They're both looking like, all right, who wants to answer the question? So.
No, I think this business is supported by public land. I mean, we're supported by people who use public land. So in that sense, it's kind of a roundabout way of looking at it. But I mean, we're supported by hunters and
hunters,
a recreation community that uses public land.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you would make an affirmative statement about that is just so cool. If you don't mind, when I leave, I'm going to take a picture of that and I'm going to post it on my Instagram page and say, this is how it should be. And maybe I'm too worked up about the whole public land gig, but obviously you guys don't think so. The front window of your business says this business supported by public land.
Well, I mean, it all ties back to access and having a good experience, right? I mean, the conservation can't survive without hunters, really, and so public lands play a huge role in that because public lands give hunters a good opportunity to hunt and have good experiences in the field and want to give back, right? And so I think that's kind of all part of the explanation of why we have that on our front door. So
great. Well, guys, you got any parting comments? Any last bits of information you want to leave the audience with?
I know, I mean, we talked about this earlier. Randy, you were an early adopter of our product.
Yep.
And you've actually supported us by telling people and being an advocate for our product and telling people about our product because it has helped you. And you had no support from us.
No, it's the
whole time you were sitting
there.
So you do truly use the products that you talk about, and you don't care whether money's involved or not. I can speak to that for sure because 2011, we were not giving you money, and you were a total evangelist for our product. So thank you very much, and we truly appreciate as many people as you've educated.
Yeah, well, Eric, I think our audience realizes that Randy doesn't use product just because there's a check attached to it. I mean, obviously in the TV world, you're not going to spend a lot of time featuring a product you use that is not paying what some of the others are. I mean, it's only fair to the guy if he's supporting you and your message in a big way, he's going to get more exposure. But no, there's no amount of love or money is going to get me to use a product that I don't believe in. And when your product came out, and I don't know how many times I've told this story at seminars, Eric, and I tell about standing at the counter at Sportsman's Warehouse, and the guy's like, no, I hear it works really good. And I'm like, you know what? For $99, I'll spill that much coffee in my truck this fall. I'll try it.
Right.
And I went down to Sportsman's Warehouse. After that hunt, I went down to Sportsman's Warehouse. I'm like, what other states you got? And the guy's like, well, we only have Montana. I can't remember. The first one I bought was Idaho or Montana. But anyhow, so I got a hold of you guys, and you guys were probably thinking, who is this dude? I sent an email, and I said, I need every state west of the Mississippi that you have. And they showed up in this little manila envelope in these little cardboard folders. I mean, back in the day, it was, to see the evolution of how smooth and professional looking it is now compared to, like any startup, you do what you can to make it work. And I still have some of those old chips and some of those old containers, and they're still in the little manila envelope, sits in the console of my truck. And my camera crew knows, whatever you do, don't spill Randy's manila envelope with all of his GPS chips. But
funny. That's what's cool about the next generation of GPS is all that data is up on our map servers, so you can have as many states as you want. You don't have to have all these little chips. I mean, you've got it right there. You just browse around and get to a new state. And whenever land ownership changes, that's what's so exciting about the next generation of GPS is all that data lives up in the cloud. And as soon as we update that data on our servers, it automatically streams right down to your phone. There's no update process. You can get the newest information very, very quickly. If a hunting district or a GMU changes, you get the new information right away. So it's kind of the exciting kind of vision there. And not a lot of people know that that's how it works. Right.
And another benefit of working so closely with the government, we work, like I said, very closely with Wyoming Game and Fish. They had a change almost mid-season or very late in the year in terms of a hunting district, and we were able to communicate with them quickly, pull that information, and dump it into the map really quickly. And so people have almost instant access. It just gets from the source to the user really quickly.
Yeah.
So
well, guys, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for building a great product. And, now that we've launched our YouTube channel last month, well, actually in mid-January, if you go to YouTube, Randy Newberg Hunter's YouTube channel, we're already starting to load some equipment and tools and stuff that we use there. And you'll see a couple videos of me using the onX products. And when I come over here and get the tutorial or get my degree in Hunt 3.0, we're going to load up a bunch more videos over on our YouTube channel. So I hope that all of you will subscribe to that YouTube channel. It's free. It's funny. Some guy said, well, I thought this was all going to be free, and now you're telling me I got to subscribe. Like, yeah, it's free to subscribe. So I sympathize with him because when I first went on YouTube, I went back whenever it was, and I hit a subscribe button. I thought, well, where do I put my credit card in?
Right.
So, but anyhow, folks, Eric, Rob, thanks for the great product. Thanks for the time today, and thanks for all the support of the Public Land Hunter.
Thank you, Randy. We appreciate all your help in the past and currently. Thank you.
Glad to do it. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll catch you next week.